Cavi, you made a comment just a few moments ago that really clicked with me when you said, the veil is perception. And I immediately thought, the veil is misperception, which seemed to answer what I've been working with now this morning and as a result of the teaching so far. Going back to the void and the very real experience I've had in my lifetime of seeing now how I have avoided the void, and going back to pre-memory, early childhood. And now I feel as though I am gaining a realization or understanding that what was perceived as a void or an abyss, something to be avoided at all costs. So we develop all these strategies for how to do that, to preserve the ego. And now I feel like that, or I think that that void is nothing to be feared, and in fact, may be synonymous with the field of awareness, and with this love that is so much more than anything I've known or anticipated in my lifetime. And so part of what I wanted to do was sort of test this out, but also to ask the question, why on earth would any self-respecting ego have such a misperception and miss out on so much?
Because it's not the ego that is needing to be enlightened or awakened by the realization that it's misperceiving and it's missing out. The ego is the veil. It doesn't really, it's not really a thing. It's an activity. The activity of constantly interpreting experience. This shouldn't be happening, and so on. This is good, this is bad, this is welcome, this is unwelcome, this is, and constantly interfering with it by resisting it, by manipulating it, by controlling it. It's the activity of that is what we call ego, egoic activity. But as a thing, it doesn't exist. Therefore, in itself, it is not required to become awake. It's the veil of ego that drops, that reveals that which is already awake. In you, as a whole organism, that is a localized point through which the one being can be recognized. So don't worry about the ego as such, and why is it not receiving the full goodness of this enlightened view and therefore suffering. It's not the ego that's suffering. There is no such thing. It's an activity in the mind, in the psyche,
And so when we hear that phrase, death of the ego, which sounds really scary, that's really talking about the dropping of those activities.
Yes. You see, ego is used in many different ways, essentially pointing to the same thing or the same process, but it's used in a, I would say, in a slightly limited way in some teachings, and in a more expanded or the more subtle understanding of ego in other teachings. Those that speak of getting rid of the ego, the death of the ego, the stopping ego, and all of that, are really limiting the understanding of what ego is, as if it's a thing that you have to get rid of, as if it's located somewhere. And it's missing the deeper understanding of ego as an activity of the mind, a movement, rather than a thing. And it's also limiting the understanding that ego means I, but I is not me. I is at the core of me. I is the I of awareness. So a sense of I always remains. Even when the veil of ego, the veil of egoic activity drops, in other words, one lives from the stop, from the, not from the movement and the grasping and the craving. And that is all there is, just that. Still an I remains, is it not? That's what the I am is. Still the I remains. That does not fall away. That's the final veil at death. Whilst there is a individuated experience, the I remains. So in that sense, you could say that that is the pure essence of ego. But the veil of ego, as it's used more commonly to describe ego as a movement of mind, the cycle of craving and aversion, the cycle of agenda and suffering, the root of suffering, does fall away. Yeah, so we have to be nuanced in some ways as to not being clumsy or with the use of ego as something to get rid of, something bad, or something that has to awaken, because you end up just with an enlightened ego, which is simply the identity. Yeah, I mean, I could say a lot more about that, but let's just. Yeah.
Thank you. I continue to have the experience that you shed light on teachings that I've been exposed to over many, many years, and being able to see and understand in a different way is so helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good.